Hello, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Arna Sahu, host of Arna's News, where on this podcast channel, I aim to eliminate the gender gap in the STEM fields by featuring inspiring female professionals and highlighting their stories and accomplishments to further encourage girls. On today's episode.
So what I try to do is I try to flip the script a little bit. Because I was fortunate, what I said, instead of feeling scared, what I should feel is pride in the fact that I'm the only woman in this room, and be able to go tell that story to people and feel pride in that. And that just kind of encouraged me in the moment that I'm like, hey, I can't bomb this now, right? How am I going to go tell this cool story? So it just kind of helped me regulate my feelings and emotions in the moment.
Today, on episode 99, I'm pleased to announce our guest, Anna Malhotra. Anna is the co-founder and CEO of Roam, a tech startup that helps dog parents book private spaces for safe, off-leash play for their dog. She graduated from Virginia Tech with a major in computer engineering and a minor in cybersecurity. Before Roam, Anna worked at Amazon for over 5 years as a cloud security specialist. She grew up in Virginia, but now lives in Seattle. So thank you so much, Anna, for being here today. Before we dive into the questions, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks for having me. No, I think you got it. I'm so excited to be here. I feel very strongly about what you're talking about. In college, I actually led a tech, CS focused group, and a lot of it was to encourage other women to step up in the engineering field. So happy to be here. I'm so excited to chat.
Thank you so much. So my first question for you is tell us a bit about your career path.
Sure. So growing up, I was always into math and science. And, as an Indian girl, it's not very surprising because our parents were really into it. They were good at it. And I think naturally so did we. And we gravitated towards it. And from my memory, I think I truly did enjoy it. I remember competing in, math Olympics or calculator club and doing well. And I remember feeling pride in that rather than why am I doing so much math? So I went to, naturally a STEM focused high school. It was a magnet school. I had to apply for it. You might have heard of it. It's Thomas Jefferson High School for Science and Technology. It's in Northern Virginia. And I was fortunate enough to get in. And so I think that really set up the kind of tone of my career path because a lot of ambitious students went there. A lot of them were always thinking about their future and they wanted it to be, usually it was in the STEM field, rather, right? Doctors, engineers, maybe even lawyers. But it was just kind of the crowd I was always around. And I think I belonged in that crowd. It's also something I wanted to do. And so again, naturally, I ended up going to an engineering focused college as well. So I went to Virginia Tech. And I knew going in that I wanted to do computer engineering. I dabbled a little bit with the idea of going into pre-med, but I tried a few courses and I realized I wasn't well suited for it. So I went with computer engineering. And when you do a major, you're taking a lot of different courses, right? And what happens is you get to pick a minor that usually aligns kind of well, or you do a minor that you're just really interested in. So for me, a minor that aligned really well, for example, was computer science. And I told my dad, I was like, hey, I think I should just do computer science. It'll be an easy win. I just have to take maybe one or two extra courses and I'll have a minor. And he reminded me, he said, what's the point of doing a minor just to do it? It's not really adding much value because computer science is such a subset of computer engineering. Think of computer engineering as computer science and electrical engineering combined. So you do the software and the hardware. So CS is kind of like embedded in that. So he said, it won't open that many doors for you. Why not do something else that maybe it's still easy to do, but just different enough where you can actually expand your horizons. So I explored, and that's where cybersecurity came in. I realized again, it was just going to be a few more courses, but it meant that I could apply to more jobs. At the time, that was really important, right? When you're a junior or senior in college, your main goal is just to focus on getting a full-time job out of college. So that's what I did, and I was excited about it. I felt like cybersecurity was one of those fields that, was fun because it was like a challenging, it was almost like a puzzle, similar to how CS feels when you're coding. Um, and I knew it was something that was never going to go away, right? If anything, it was going to grow because cybersecurity stuff, there, as we do more things on the internet, the more we need cybersecurity. So I knew that it was a good choice to make in terms of long-term safety in my career, but something I thought I would actually enjoy, which was true. So I interned as a security engineer at AWS. I was fortunate to get that internship. And I think what happened was, and I think it's still happening, is the cybersecurity field does not have enough professionals. Like not enough people are doing it in college because it's almost still new. So more colleges are starting to pick up cybersecurity as a minor or major, but it made it so that it was much easier to get a job in the cybersecurity field. Even though I was applying for computer engineering roles as well, what I ended up with was cybersecurity, which I was totally fine with. I mean, I took the minor for a reason, and that's how it worked out. So my dad was right, you know. I interned as a security engineer, and what was really cool about how Amazon does their internships is that your internship is basically your application and your interview to get the next offer. So whether that's another internship or your full-time offer, you get it at the end of your internship. You don't have to reapply, you don't have to re-interview. They use those 3 months or whatever number of weeks you're doing that internship for as your interview. So because I was a junior going into my senior year, I got my full-time offer to come back to Amazon after I graduated as a security engineer. And that just took so much pressure away from senior year of college, right? Then I could just focus on keeping, excuse me, keeping my grades up and making sure that if I wanted to apply to more jobs, that I could focus on doing that. But I knew I had something in the bag secured and to go for, and that just made things so much easier for me. Yeah, so getting that full-time offer just made it so that I didn't have to stress about it, getting another job. So I did the security engineering role for about 2.5 years. Within that time, I got promoted. So we start as entry level and then we become, I guess, whatever's after entry level, but it's still not senior. I got that while I was there and I learned a lot. So as a security engineer at AWS, what you're doing is you're doing security reviews as a team for basically all the new features that are being released by AWS. So that's Amazon Web Services, which is Amazon's cloud, right? So cloud is a huge thing now. AWS has the biggest cloud out of all the cloud providers. So we're constantly churning out features. And I worked with specifically the AI/ML services. So I got to dabble in AI/ML here and there. And it was a very high-paced and high-risk environment because you couldn't be wrong, but you also had to work really fast. So you had to make the right decision really fast, you know? And it was exhausting, even though like I learned so much, but I wanted something that pushed me in the right ways. Like I didn't want to just be pushed by like, oh, go fast, go fast, go fast. Like I wanted to do some more bigger thinking kind of stuff. So I realized there's this role called Security Solutions Architect, still within AWS, but it's customer facing. So as a security engineer, I was working with the builders, so the software engineers that were building the services. So as a security SA, solutions architect, I switched to a customer facing role. So I got to help our customers use those tools. Um, and it really, I think it was a better fit for me because um, I'm a fairly extroverted person. I know how to communicate well. And those are some of the skills you need when working with customers, right? You need to know how to maintain a good relationship with them, speak confidently in front of them, but also know your stuff. So coming from the more technical security engineering thing where I knew how things were built, it set me up for success to talk to our customers and feel confident that I knew what I was talking about. And again, that was another cybersecurity role. So again, it was me just building on my minor. And in your bio, we said that I'm a startup tech founder. So there's a little bit of a side story here, right? I'm no longer at AWS. I actually quit my job end of June. So in July, I was full time on my startup. And the side story here is that my now husband and I, we were always kind of interested in doing our own thing. We always wanted to do a tech startup, but we weren't actively pursuing it. It was just kind of this thing we wanted to do, kind of. And one day we actually had this idea for a dating app. We were really excited about it. We were like really excited about the tech we were going to build in. It was going to be based off of like trust, safety, honesty, and all these things. And then we're like, wait, we don't know anything about dating. We've been together for 4 years. Like, I can't remember the last time I went on a date. And so we were like, okay, we're probably not the right people for this, but it got us excited. So one day we were complaining about our dog. We have this husky, super high energy, especially at that time, because he was still young and but he was reactive towards other dogs. So that meant we couldn't go to public dog parks because he would just start barking on at them or start fighting with them. And we were complaining, and I said, wait, why are we complaining? Why don't we just try to do it ourselves? Like, let's try to fix this problem ourselves. We had tried a bunch of different alternatives and nothing was working. So we're like, okay, this is exactly the problem we should be solving. We know it really well. And we think we know how to build it. So let's just go for it. And that was October 2022. So I was still working at Amazon at that time. And we're fortunate that more or less Amazon like encourages you to pursue your outside projects and hobbies. A lot of people are very technical when they work at Amazon. So doing these side projects is fairly easy for them. And so that was back in October 2022. And I was hitting a point in my career where I had to make a decision whether I wanted to pursue Roam full time, the app, the startup full time, because it was starting to pick up. And it was, if I don't go full time, then it's probably Rome probably won't go anywhere. But if I do go full time, then we're at least giving it a shot, right? In the startup world, only 1 to 2% of startups succeed. Most of them kind of just fizzle away or die. So I was like, okay, if we want this to go anywhere, this is the chance. Let me just do it. I'm lucky where my husband has also a high paying tech job. He works at TikTok as a full stack engineer. So with his salary, we could support our cost of living. So, as much as I would love to tell people, just go do your thing, go take that risk, I didn't grow up like that. I'm not as risk averse as my parents, for example, but it's still a risk. We're taught to make sure that we know how to take care of ourselves. So I'm not just gonna go quit my job and make no money unless I have a backup plan, right? Um, so anyways, that's the end of my ramble of how I got here. Now I'm now I'm, instead of working a 9 to 5, 5 days a week, I work at 24/7. I tried to give myself Fridays off, but usually that doesn't happen. That's just kind of founder life. You just got to do what you got to do. And I knew that I was signing up for more work. But it's so worth it. I really like get up every day excited about what I'm doing. And I was starting to lose that a little bit in my previous roles at AWS. I started to realize that maybe, I wasn't put on this earth to be a security professional. I felt like there was something more that I could be doing. And so Rome happened that way.
I absolutely love that. I mean, you kind of just went on exploring. You didn't know if you were going to pursue cybersecurity or have a minor for that matter, but then you decided to explore. And then there you were. And then you started working at AWS. And then it kind of just moved you to build Rome. And you did something on your own accord. I think that's really, really cool because instead of building like a dating app where you didn't really know the last time you went on a date, you actually found like a problem real time that was happening to you and you decided to focus on it. And I think that's really, really commendable.
Thank you so much. And yeah, I'll just add real quick here. That's actually a huge thing in the startup space, like to be an entrepreneur. If there's anybody listening who's thinking about doing it, the first thing you want to understand is how do I fit into this thing I'm trying to build, right? Is this a problem that I've dealt with before? Because that's what's going to kind of keep you going, right? A lot of the time it's so much hard work. Like I said, it's almost a 24/7 job. So unless you truly feel connected to the thing you're working on or solving for, you're maybe not going to want to do it. So you should start from the problem rather than the solution, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And this is a great segue to my question, which is what advice would you give someone wanting to pursue a career similar to yours? And do you have any tips to succeed?
Sure. So I think, you probably saw that, my path started in first more computer engineering, a little bit wider scope. Then it became a little more specific to cyber. But then I completely changed into a tech startup that's dog related, like that has nothing to do with security, right? So I think one of the things is it's okay to not know exactly where you're headed. What's more important is to keep as many options open as possible. So that, there is actually a way to increase your luck. And that is by increasing your potential, increasing your options. Because let's say some doors close, right? But if you have like 30 doors to choose from, five doors is nothing, right? But if you only have five doors and those five doors close, then you're screwed, right? So I would say like try to widen your options as much as possible, and you'll find your way through it. I think one thing that also really helped me kind of accelerate, right? So I got a security engineering job. The role I was in out of college, nobody else on my team was almost as young as me, right? Either they had done their masters or they had been in the industry for at least 5, 10, 15 years. But I went right out of college, just an undergraduate degree, honestly, just a minor. And and then I got promoted, and then I worked towards becoming a security solutions architect. And again, I ended up in a role where I was probably one of the youngest. I think I only had one other peer that was in my position. Um, and I think why I was able to do this was because I was always working towards a goal. Like I was always working backwards from a goal. I was always thinking about the next step. And of course, like you need to be in the moment. You need to like be there to be present to learn what's in front of you. But by working backwards from a goal, I always made sure, like, I always kept moving forward. I never liked the idea of being too comfortable in one place. I think honestly, I just got bored. I'm easily bored, you know? So it was always just this way of keeping me moving forward. And so, for example, I was doing security engineering. And then I asked myself, what's next? And then I discovered security solutions architect. And so then I worked backwards from that. I was like, okay, I want to become a security SA. What do I need to accomplish to do that? And then I was like, okay, probably during the interview, they're going to expect me to have the AWS security SA certification done. So I was like, okay, to do that certification, I need to do the AWS Solutions Architect certification. So then that's what I did. So I took that cert first. And then once I was done with that, I took the next one. And then I started preparing for the interview. Then I reached out to that manager and I said, I'm interested. We did the interview and I got the job. So I always kept thinking about what's next. And then once I realized what I wanted to do next, I worked backwards from there. So there's this kind of like this ongoing cycle that's always happening. And you know, I again, like, you never know where you're going to end up. I really didn't think leaving high school or leaving college that I was going to become a startup founder. I was kind of interested, but I didn't really know much about it. And now I'm here. So again, like, you don't have to know exactly where you're going to end up at the end of the day or like 5, 10 years from now, but you should always be thinking about the next step, if that makes sense.
I love that. And you've really just played your own game. There's a saying that once you get comfortable in one spot, you should move. And you kind
Mhm.
of did that. You fueled yourself. You got bored and then you moved on to the next thing, and you widen your prospects. And I think
Mhm.
that's really cool. For me, especially, I become pretty stubborn. So whenever something like doesn't really go my way, I try to fix it. And I think this mindset of trying to move on and trying to just widen your options is a really good mindset to have because you
Mhm.
never know. What if your only safety net is cut and you have nothing else? So
Right.
definitely widen your horizons, no matter how far off you may be.
Absolutely. I actually also, my mom taught me, she kind of always said this, and I never really understood it until recently. She said that it's always better to leave at a high than a low. So like it's never a great feeling or a great position to be in when you're getting pushed out from something, right? You rather leave on your own accord when you're at the top of the hill and you can say, I have options, right? Rather than be at the bottom and feel desperate, like either desperate to have to stay or to leave.
Absolutely. And my question is, what is a common myth about your profession that you want to debunk?
So I think if you're already involved in the startup field, you'll know this, but if you're interested and you're in it, you're into, the startup world or into entrepreneurship for the glamour, it does not exist, especially in the beginning stages. Like, yeah, the TV shows and the movies, they make it seem like you're living this crazy life, you're traveling all the time, which it might be true, but you know, at the end of the day, like you're putting in the time, and a lot of it is not as glamorous. Like we're working on a dog startup and it's a tech startup, but I swear to God, half the time I'm just picking up dog poop. Like literally, So I think it's not this huge myth. If you already know the space, like it's a learned lesson pretty quickly. But if you've never, you're only just seen it in the TV shows or the movies and you're like, oh, I'm interested because of the glamour, it's definitely not gonna go the way you expect.
Absolutely. And I think that's really nice to know because media portrays, having a big job or a fancy role as like super astounding and something that we all want to aspire for. But in the reality, if you're actually like doing it, it's not always going to be shiny and glamorous. There's going to be some high highs and some low lows, but media never really portrays the low lows.
Exactly.
Yeah, so my question is, if you could step into my shoes, what would you have asked yourself that I didn't?
So I tried to prepare for this one. I couldn't come up with something too great. I guess I would love to talk about like what it felt to be in a male-dominated field, and how I kind of tackled that. So there were times in my career where it felt a little nerve-wracking to be the only woman at the table. Like it happened a few times to me where I went on a business trip to meet with our customers, and then the people that were coming from Amazon, like my side, were all male, and then all the customers were all male as well. And and it was a little scary. I'm fortunate that I've never had to really deal with the hardships that come with being a woman in the tech field. I think most people have treated me very fairly, or have respected me for that fact. But so what I try to do is I try to flip the script a little bit. Because I was fortunate, what I said, instead of feeling scared, what I should feel is pride in the fact that I'm the only woman in this room, and be able to go tell that story to people and feel pride in that. And that just kind of encouraged me in the moment that I'm like, hey, I can't bomb this now, right? How am I going to go tell this cool story? So it just kind of helped me regulate my feelings and emotions in the moment. Um, and even in high school, it was less of an issue, even though I went to a STEM school, because it was high school. But then, like as you go through college and through your career, then you filter people out, right? And then it's like as you go more and more niche. Um, Again, I'm very fortunate that I'm surrounded by extremely smart women, whether they're in STEM or not, and we're really good about encouraging each other. So I guess even if you feel pride to be the only woman or one of the few, use that pride for good, and that good means go encourage other people to do it, show them that it can be done. Uh, you know, and I think also, again, I haven't been in this position, but if you ever do feel like you're being treated like unfairly, like the first thing you should go do is go talk to somebody else and see how they're being treated, right? Because they might not be speaking out, or you have somebody to take have your back when you have to go have these conversations even more.
Absolutely. And if someone's treating you badly, chances are they've probably done that to others. So, even though you might be facing all of these issues, you can always talk to someone. And I think that's so important. And also to just flip the script, as you said, and, think about something else that can make you push it through, like, and persevere. I think that's really important to know.
Hmm.
All right. And my question is, what are the best resources or books that have helped you find your career path?
Um, Honestly, I don't think there's a specific like book or resource when it comes to my career path. I think uh I guess my resource honestly was my parents. They helped me navigate a lot of the thinking around um like how to pick a career. Um of course, again, we're Indian, so we were always encouraged to go into STEM, but what they emphasized more was thinking big rather than thinking small, right? So any choice that I made, they made me think about like what is the long-term impact of that choice, rather than the short-term uh, gains. And so that's like picking cybersecurity over computer science was one of those things, right? Even though at that time we didn't know if I was going to go into the cybersecurity field, it increased my choices. Um, I guess like I read this question, so I did pick out a book, even though it didn't really help me find my career. It did, I think it kind of helped me be more organized. Like it's called Getting Things Done. I don't know if you can see it. Anyways, video's not even being taken, but uh, I I actually didn't even read this whole book, but I saw this kind of high level video of the concept. And what it helped me do is just like I said, I made goals or I had to-do lists. Like when we're in the highly ambitious women have a lot on their plate, and to get things done, you need to be organized about it. And so you can probably find like a YouTube video or a Udemy course on getting things done, and it just kind of helps you organize your tasks and just work through them. So I'd highly encourage that. Otherwise, no specific resource. Like I think when I had to take a certification, I would just find the best resource for that specific one and then move from there. That's about it.
I love that. And I think a big resource that a lot of people undermine is your cheerleaders, or the people who are like supporting you. For you, it was your parents, and for me, it's also my parents, and also, teachers and friends, just people that are around me who tell me that, okay, yes, you should be able to do this because, I know you. Or people who advise me not to do something because, when in doubt, I always look to people that I look up to give me advice. So, people around me just are probably my biggest cheerleaders too.
100%, 100%. And I think everyone around me was highly ambitious again, um, or expected a lot of me, which were my parents, right? So I have no regrets going in that path. And I'm glad I am where I am today. I think if I wasn't, then I wouldn't be feeling as proud.
Absolutely. And
Mhm.
my last question before we end off is, what do you think is a vital factor that shaped your career? What was your life before learning it, and what was your life after learning it?
Um, So I guess I'm gonna say my career now is like this entrepreneur, like tech entrepreneur founder, right? And I think what I learned, okay, so let me like backtrack a little bit. My parents have done a lot of great things for me. But one of the things that my dad was vocal about was that he always worried that you couldn't be successful unless you were really, really good at one thing rather than kind of good at a lot of things. And I think he was wrong. I think he was right about a lot of things that helped me become where I am, like what I am. But one of the things he was wrong about was that because I don't think I would have been a good entrepreneur or founder unless I was good at least decent at a lot of things. And sure, like become an expert on a few things here and there. But if you are only good at one thing, like entrepreneurship, I think is not for you. You have to be able to wear many hats, whether that's a business leader or a tech leader or a salesperson, right? Like it's my job to be able to sell my product, even though, um, like long term that won't be my role. This early in this in the journey, it has to be. So I think I used to um hate that. It works. I'm right when it comes to being an entrepreneur. I could easily be wrong if like I am going into a different field where it is required for me to be like a deep expert in that one thing. But I don't think it means you can't be successful, right? So before I realized that, I used to feel bad about myself because my dad would say stuff like that. And I'd be like, oh, shoot, like kind of good at a lot of things, but I haven't found my one thing that I'm really, really, really good at. And therefore, I can't be successful. I have to go find that thing. And once I realized I didn't have to do that, it made me, it made me realize that it that I'm okay, that I can still be successful. And if anything, it makes me a better entrepreneur. So yeah, life after learning that was just a little bit, it put me at ease that I'm like, I'm okay. I don't have to go find that thing right now or ever.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And it goes back to what we said at the beginning of this episode that like you should you should kind of broaden your horizons and see different things that might suit you. You know, you open more doors, you see what's good for you, what's not, but it's the sole reason that, you know, you're there, you're trying to try new things. If you get bored of one thing, you move on. And I think that's really, really important to know because for me, I'm stubborn, I'm also a little bit impatient. So when I see something that I don't like, I get really, really sad and a little bit angsty. But
Mhm.
at the same time, I realized that I can always pivot to something else. Like if I don't like knitting, then maybe I like sewing. But like they're kind of the same thing. So you just have different hobbies, and if you see something that you like, then you pursue it. But if you don't, then you kind of just don't. And it's good to know that, and it's good to realize that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you and I are very similar in that sense because I would pick up a lot of hobbies and I'd drop them like a few months later and it would used to upset me. I'm like, why can't I just stick to this one thing for once? You know? And now I'm like, oh no, that's okay. That's how you explore. That's how you learn your likes and your dislikes. And one day you'll land on the thing, or you learned how to knit, worst case. And you could use that skill maybe sometime in the future. Like you don't have to, you can just learn the thing and move on, right? And that's totally fine too.
Absolutely. I mean, Steve Jobs, he took this one calligraphy class thinking it'd be nothing important, and he went on to like build Apple, and
Mhm.
he made all these fonts by knowing different calligraphy styles. So you never know when one hobby is going to be useful for something you do later on. So it's good to explore.
Yeah, I love that story about Steve Jobs.
All right. So before we end off, my last question for you is, do you
Mhm.
have any last words to the audience?
Um, I think last words would just be, um, always ask yourself, like, what's next? Keep yourself moving forward. I think a lot of the time, maybe girls or women think that, like, maybe they don't deserve more or they can't get more. And the ceiling is quite high, right? So, like, I think if you if you feel comfortable and that's the life you want to live, that's okay. But if you feel like you're not living the life you strived for, ask yourself, right? What's next? What can I be doing to get that thing? And then work from there.
I love that. Well, thank you so much, Anna, for being here today. I absolutely love talking to you. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And here are my 3 cents on this episode with Anna. One, authentic motivation. It's important to engage in activities because they genuinely interest you or bring personal fulfillment, rather than solely for external validation or resume building. This can lead to a more authentic and satisfying life. Two, expanding horizons. By widening your doors and opportunities, you allow yourself to explore new experiences, perspectives, and skills. This broadens your understanding of the world and can lead to an unexpected personal growth and opportunities. Three, embracing individuality. Taking pride in your uniqueness and being true to yourself is key to living a meaningful life. It encourages self confidence, resilience, and the ability to make choices that align with your values and passions rather than conforming to external expectations. Thus, that concludes today's episode. If you want to know more about how I relate to these amazing topics, then stay tuned for upcoming episodes. A free way to support this show is by leaving it a 5-star rating and a review on the player you are listening to. Let me know what you enjoy about this podcast, as it's a chance to tell me what you love about the show, and it helps others discover it too. Once again, thank you for finding me, and I hope we stay in touch with each other. Dito, you're listening to Arna Sahu, the host of Arna's News. Toodles!